Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday afternoon, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney took out a pretty risky bet against President Trump, and much to his dismay, that bet has already backfired. Now, as many of you know, President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs were completely shut down by a radically progressive federal court ruling just 2 days ago, totally putting an end to all of his Liberation Day tariffs. And so this is what Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney had to say about all of that. Take a look.
The government welcomes yesterday's decision by the U.S. Court of International Trade, which is consistent with Canada's long-standing position that the U.S. IEEPA tariffs were unlawful as well as unjustified.
So you hear that, folks? According to Mark Carney, all of President Trump's tariffs were unlawful and unjustified. Well, as it would turn out, Mark Carney probably should have waited a couple hours before giving his opinion. You see, because President Trump's tariffs are a fundamental component of his broader plan to secure American national security, President Trump's legal team was able to do the impossible. They were able to effectively argue that for a multitude of reasons, President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are actually imperative for maintaining national security. And so I want to give you guys some background information on all of that, but before I do, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out.
We're in a situation now, big picture here is IEEPA. We were using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. There's no question that there's an economic emergency with respect to both uses that we had. One is we are in a world where China has killed over 1 million Americans with fentanyl poison, and we took this step to stop that. We will continue to press on that. At the same time, we invoked that rule to stop what has been 20 million illegal aliens streaming into our country, driving down wages, taking jobs away. That's an economic emergency. And on top of that, the world continues to steal about $1 trillion a year as measured by the trade deficit. And that's an economic emergency because it's transferring our wealth abroad. So we think we have a strong case. Yes, we will immediately appeal and try to stay the ruling. But at the same time, the court, interestingly enough, basically said we were right, just use different rules and laws. So nothing has really changed here in that sense. We're still, as we speak, having countries call us and tell us they want a deal. So these deals are going to happen. So that's kind of where we're at. And it's troublesome here because if you look broadly at the pattern, we've got courts in this country who are basically engaged in attacks on the American people. The president ran on stopping the fentanyl poisoning, stopping international trade unfair practices from stealing our factories and jobs, and courts keep getting in the way of that. The courts get in the way of our trying to deal with the border issues. Now they're getting in the way of our trying to deal with the fentanyl crisis. And that's where we stand here. And I think part of what's going to be important about this ruling demonstrates yet again to the American people that the judiciary in this country has been weaponized in ways which are contrary to their interests.
And so, folks, not only is all of that true, but it also perfectly explains why President Trump's tariffs are absolutely necessary. In fact, take a look at what President Trump's Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, had to say about why all of these Liberation Day tariffs are so important for our national security. Take a look.
The president's spoken about the national emergency that's led us to these giant trade deficits, right? I mean, he spoke about it on the campaign trail, and he wanted to use the sweeping powers of IEEPA. Now, he has many, many other laws and authorities that he can use, and he'll take them out if he needs to. But right now, he likes the sweeping authority because it lets him deal with everybody who treats us unfairly, who doesn't treat us reciprocally. He can use IEEPA to do the whole world and sort of set America up correctly and protect America from the national emergency. But as you know, we're going to go through the courts, and you should always bet on Donald Trump, because what we've all seen is he does not lose.
And so, folks, Howard Lutnick is absolutely right about that. You see, yesterday afternoon, President Trump's legal team appealed this incompetent, radically progressive federal ruling that shut down all of his tariffs, and a federal appellate court actually took the case and ruled in President Trump's favor, which means President Trump's tariffs are back in full effect. Like I said earlier, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney probably should have kept his opinion to himself for just a couple hours longer. But so, folks, take a look at what the Trump administration had to say about this ruling in the appeals court. Let it play.
We're very pleased with the ruling. We expected it. The bottom line is that our U.S. Trade Representative, Jamieson Greer, is the best trade thinker in the business, that President Trump's case is ironclad, and the appeals court took almost no time at all. In fact, we're surprised it took till the end of the day for them to overturn this previous ruling. The bottom line is that President Trump's trade team has their eyes on the horizon. They understand that we've got to make America great again by making trade deals fair, by advantaging U.S. producers and U.S. farmers when they sell things in foreign markets, and leveling the playing field at home for foreign products that are brought here. And so this is a big victory for the president. And I just got to say that you also can see, if you just look at the data, that President Trump's vision is working, that we've received $50 to $60 billion in tariff revenue since we've started the tariffs. Inflation has gone down. In fact, if you think about it, the automakers for foreign auto companies are running ads saying they're not going to increase prices. So it's working exactly the way we thought, and we're very pleased with the decision today.
And so, folks, there you have it. President Trump and his tariffs are winning. Meanwhile, the radical progressives are losing. All of the radically progressive judges in our federal judiciary, as well as all of the globalists like Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, just suffered an absolutely catastrophic loss, and now President Trump's America First economic policy is back in action. Somehow, despite the entire anti-American apparatus desperately trying to undermine and subvert every single thing that President Trump tries to do, he just keeps on winning, working on behalf of all of us that voted for him to actually make America great again. And so, folks, I don't know about you, but hey, to me, this is exactly what it looks like to put America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.